Today we have with us the Managing Director of Freedom Oil.
My parents had migrated from what is Pakistan today, so they were refugees in that sense.
We are still a big importer of oils. Can you tell us why?
Just keep one thing in mind, Suresh, that food habits are formed out of availability.
Okay, people would go and say, give me sun drop. They wouldn't even say, give me oil.
India's vegetable oil consumption has grown. India is at about 18 kilograms, the world average is about 24.
Among all these items which you mentioned, which is the most healthiest oil for a consumer? So somebody who's watching you, Mr. Choudhary suggested this.
Till the year 1995, say about 30 years ago, India was 100% sufficient in vegetable oils. So in the last 30 years, increased from zero imports to almost 60% imports today.
Welcome to Conversations. I'm Suresh Kochatal. Selling oils is a slippery business, but then that is the main part of it. It forms a part of our entire system of cooking, the cooking ecosystem, and oil in India, by virtue of it, is a big part of it. We've gone used to it, like states like Kerala using coconut oil, down to palm oil that we exported from other countries, imported from other countries. And of course, over a period of time, we have grown our own oil, sunflower and other things, and now rice bran. But India has been importing and is still importing significant amount of vegetable oils to this country. But then there are a few companies that have broken the mold. And one of them is Freedom Oil. Today we have with us a gentleman who has taken this journey by setting up this company and made a mark for himself. Namaskar, sir. Mr. Pradeep Chowdhry, the Managing Director of Freedom Oil. Of course, it's a parent company also. GEF, as he calls it, in a sense, has seen and done it all. A chartered accountant by profession, and of course, a person who literally runs the Freedom Oil today in a sales and marketing role also that he had functioned earlier. So can you take us through your early days? Where did you do your schooling? Where were you born and all that?
Good afternoon, Sureshji. I belong to a place called Dehradun. When I left Dehradun, it was in Uttar Pradesh. Now it is in Uttarakhand. So I was born there, and my parents had migrated from what is Pakistan today. So they were refugees in that sense. This was at the time of partition, but I was born 7 years after partition. And my early schooling and college was in Dehradun. Then I moved to Delhi in the year 1975 for my higher studies, which is Chartered Accountancy and Company Secretaries. So I passed out in the year 1978. And after that, I worked for 3 companies before setting up my own company in trading. So the 3 companies were, first company was ICI, which was, as you know, today it's a paints company. But in those days, ICI used to be a real big corporate house into a lot of products, mainly monopoly products, fertilizer, explosives, petrochemicals, rubber chemicals, explosives. So there were a lot of things like that, and paints, of course. Then I was there for about 5.5 years. I left, joined Britannia, which is a biscuit company, and I was there again for another 5 years with Britannia. And things happened in a manner that Britannia was selling the edible oil business, which they had set up in Madhya Pradesh, and they were in discussions with ITC. The business did not get sold to ITC, they sold to somebody else. But in the process, since I was negotiating on behalf of Britannia with ITC, so ITC offered me a job to come and join them. So I joined ITC, this was in the year 1991, in the finance department as the head of finance of the edible oil division. But within a year or year and a half, they were not having a person to head the business, so I was moved, elevated to that position. That's where my real learning in the edible oil business started. So when I was the head of the business, and India was at a very nascent stage in the edible oil industry. Things were very primitive, consumption was very low, packaged sales were very low, there were no brands to be talked about. ITC was the company which built the first sunflower brand at that time by the name Sundrop. So I was part of that journey, and the learning was phenomenal. And because of that, there were no ready-made professionals in this field.
Okay.
So that's why they chose somebody like me, who, even though I did not really have a exposure or a background in commercial from a finance background, I was put at, as they say, the deep end of the pool. So I learned to swim and I learned the business. But things really opened up within a few years, and India started consuming a lot of oil and importing a lot of oil from year 94 onwards. Then I got an opportunity and I saw for myself that, look, there's a huge opportunity to do something on your own. So I set up a trading company first in the year 1996 by the name Sikandrabad Oils Limited, and we did reasonably well. But then things changed, government policies changed, which encouraged value addition within the country, which meant that you had to set up a refinery. So then I went and tied up with, which is one of the largest companies in palm by the name Wilmar. Adani Wilmar is already there. In fact, it was there at that time also. So Adani Wilmar was operating on the west coast of India. So the company which I set up, JV with Wilmar, was operating on the east coast of India.
Okay.
So we set up a plant in Kakinada, then we set up a plant in Krishnapatnam. We ran that successfully for about 8 years, that company. So 8 years down the road, Wilmar wanted me to merge with Adani Wilmar. So I opted to sell out rather than merge. And that's how Gemini was formed. So this was the year 2010.
So Gemini is the name, that's how the GEF comes in, edible oil and fats.
Yeah.
In a sense, that baptism by fire, if you can call it literally, that you had in ITC, because ITC is a huge conglomerate, and I still remember interacting with Mr. Deveshwar, because one of the first companies that I worked for was ITC Welcome Group Hyderabad, after doing my hotel management, and he was unwell at that time, and he was staying there in Banjara, recouping his health. But when you look at ITC, when you look at the behemoth of ITC, cigarettes was a basic business, but then they decided very consciously to move out of cigarettes into oils and other things. In a sense, edible oil in India was usually sold loose at that point in time, the 90s. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And there was a lot of adulteration that was happening also.
Yes.
Because one, the production was low, so somebody had to make up for the volume, so there was a lot of adulteration happening. So when the packaging part of it came in, what kind of change did it make in the consumption pattern of Indian middle class, Indian families?
I think you rightly said that adulteration was rampant, number one, and tax evasion was rampant.
Okay.
Because this business was highly fragmented. It was very, very small scale in nature. There was no big company. The reforms which happened in terms of GST, for instance, or taxation reforms primarily, and when imports started, how does an industry consolidate? It consolidates only when if the raw material is concentrated in a particular place. Correct. Or if the market is concentrated. One of the two things have to be there. In India earlier, when it was only domestic led, the supply or the production was fragmented across the length and breadth of the country. So there were only small crushing units, small refineries. So industry could not consolidate because of the geographical nature of the spread of the industry. Once import started, that means large volumes started coming concentrated at a single place, which meant you needed bigger refineries and bigger capacities. So that is what happened and how the industry consolidated over the years. And then the taxation reforms. Because this being a very low margin business, a tax evasion was one of the ways in which the people used to make money.
Tempting,
because a business which has got a 1 or 2% margin and the AP VAT was 8% or 10%, it is a huge incentive to evade, And there was no tracing or tracking of the sale and the purchase, what it is today. So it was a high level and it was fragmented, small scale people. So this was rampant. Adulteration was there because, again, packaging was not there. So adulteration became rampant. And there was incentive to evade because of the margins. Now, I remember in ITC when we started the sunflower, it was the first sunflower oil in the country.
True, I remember that.
And it was then advertised heavily. Building brands in those days was much easier because it was only a single channel called Doordarshan. So it was not so difficult to build a brand.
The choice was easy.
Today, to build a brand and to advertise and your share of voice, impossible to reach out to the consumer and build a brand. So industry really started understanding the benefits of health, benefits of taste, packaging volume started increasing. So that the whole thing in the last 30 years has undergone a huge change.
So when you looked at ITC and where ITC has grown that brand, and you rightly said, because Sundrop became the de facto default name for cooking oil. Okay, people would go and say, give me Sundrop. They wouldn't even say, give me oil. And then of course Sundrop, then later groundnut, and then you saw rice bran, mustard, and the entire chain of oils that came into the market. The difference that you say from say 91 when the Indian economy opened up to where we are right now, including last night's announcement of the GST rationalization. What kind of change have you seen in this industry, sir?
Yeah. So first and foremost, India's vegetable oil consumption has grown in the last 30 years by almost 3x,
Okay.
or rather 4x actually, I would say. I mean, you've heard of Malthusian law.
Correct.
What does it say? That when disposable incomes increase, the first consumption increase is food. Because people who are not consuming enough food, they would want to eat more food, satisfy themselves in terms of the appetite. Despite this, today we are still way below the average per capita consumption of the world.
Okay.
India is at about 18 kilograms, the world average is about 24. So we have inched closer, but still we are way below the world average.
We have to catching up to do.
So we still have some catching up to do. Of course, the latest thing about the Prime Minister's mantra is, please consume less vegetable oil. But the thing is that that is for people who are consuming more.
Obese and
But 60%, 70% of our people are consuming less.
True.
So India, you cannot make a general statement, consume less oil. Yes, I agree. You should consume less oil if you're consuming more. But then there are a lot of people who are not consuming enough oil or enough energy they are not having. So they need to consume more. So the consumption is bound to grow. So that is one change that I have seen. Second is that there have been certain patterns which have been there in the industry. One is from loose to packaged, for reasons that there is no longer an incentive to evade tax. That is not possible. So obviously packaging makes sense. The cost of packaging has come down significantly. The transportation cost of a packaged oil is lower than that of a bulk oil. Okay. Because once you are in a packaged form, it goes directly to your distributor, it distributes well. Truck cost is lower than a tanker cost. So all those factors are there. And then from a lower end oil to a higher end oil, the aspiration levels of the people are there. Today, that is there in every single commodity, not only in edible oil. People's aspirations have increased. So people who used to be consuming vanaspati have moved to palm oil, from palm oil to sunflower oil to rice bran to better oils, and awareness on health has also increased. So as a result, people are becoming more conscious. So we've seen these 3 or 4 trends that have happened in the last, say, about 30 years. And these trends are continuing. They're not stopped here.
Interestingly, India with its Operation Flood became very self-sufficient in milk. The Green Revolution, Kasturi Rangan and others, Professor Swaminathan and others brought in a huge revolution in terms of what happened with rice and wheat.
Yeah.
But there's one field that or two fields that we didn't catch up. One was, of course, lentils, which now government again is paying a huge amount of attention to, and also oils. We are still a big importer of oils.
Yeah.
Can you tell us why?
See, it's like this. Don't look at edible oil alone. When we talk of India or a country, you got to look at the entire agri-commodity space. So India has grown a long way in terms of agriculture production and food production.
Yes.
Oils we have been lagging behind, but we have grown a lot in wheat, rice, various food commodities. I remember still those days in the early 60s where we used to get wheat on charity from the US.
American government.
Yeah. So now, the reason for edible oil not to grow is because the world has increased its production so much, particularly palm oil, that the prices have remained under pressure in the world. They have not increased. Okay. And it has become much cheaper to import than to grow domestically. So the entire ecosystem till the year 1995, say about 30 years ago, India was 100% sufficient in vegetable oils. We were not importing at all. So in the last 30 years, we have increased from 0 imports to almost 60% imports today. Okay. It is because consumption has grown. We have grown in domestic production, but not as much as the consumption has grown. But because edible oils are cheaper in the world and we are able to buy cheaper, That's why this has happened. But now the government is beginning to be concerned as to we are dependent so much on edible oil imports, and there's so much of diversion of edible oils into biodiesel,
That's true.
which is also creating an artificial shortage, so to say, of vegetable oils. So the government is now beginning to feel that we should focus on domestic production of oilseed. So there have been certain measures taken. I have my doubts that this will play out the way the government is wanting it to happen, because there are multiple factors. Factors is of the entire ecosystem in terms of the availability of seed, availability of fertilizer. It is the right price to the farmer. It is also about the capacities of crushing, and also modernization in terms of crushing capacities and the utilization of the byproducts. So it is complicity of factors which have to work, but the beginning has to be made at some point. It will take 3, 4, 5 years for it to take shape.
When you say oil as a bucket, it's a huge segment. There is a sunflower, as I described. There is a gingerly, and then there is mustard, and the rest of the stuff down there in rice bran and palm oil and all that. What is the breakup of this pattern in India, sir? And why do you see that happening? Why is that pattern there?
Just keep one thing in mind, Mr. Suresh, that food habits are formed out of availability. Not that I'm born with a taste of mustard oil or with a taste of palm oil or groundnut oil. What has happened is, world over, if you see, whatever is grown, the taste develop accordingly.
They adapt to it.
Yeah, so today US is producing soybean oil, so they are soybean oil consumers. Europe produces a lot of sunflower oil, they are sunflower oil consumers. Palm oil is consumed a lot in the Far East and the Southeast Asian countries, and palm oil, of course, has got various other reasons. Coming specifically to India, southern India was very high in production of sunflower. In fact, entire sunflower seed which was produced in India was produced only in south of India.
Okay.
So the first transition which South India saw from vanaspati or loose groundnut oil into a refined oil was in sunflower.
Okay.
So that habit has now formed that people want to consume only sunflower oil. So this transition happened. So India, in terms of, if you see the overall numbers, the largest oil which is consumed in India is palm oil, which is the cheapest oil, number one. And number two, it has a lot of institutional uses. So a lot of HoReCa segments consume palm oil. Then the number two oil is soybean oil. Now soybean oil, lot is grown in central India and northern India and western India. So there again, people tastes have been formed, they like soybean oil. So soybean oil is the second oil. Then there is a mustard oil. Now mustard oil is essentially for taste reasons, and it is not a refined oil. But without mustard oil, Eastern India and North India, a lot of dishes will not be made.
True.
Right. So there again a matter of taste and a matter of habit. So in order of quantum, the largest is palm oil, the number two is soybean oil, then it is mustard and sunflower almost equal. So that is the way we consume our oils. Other oils are extremely minor, be it groundnut oil, be it
Coconut.
gingerly oil or coconut oil, they're very small.
So when you look at the healthy aspect of it, and that's one of the strong pitching points of your product, that when you say it's good for health, and there was Saffola earlier, there was Amul which came out with Dhara, and a whole lot of products that came out. And initially, as you rightly said, you were a part of the team that launched Sundrop as such. In terms of the healthy part of it, among all these items which you mentioned, which is the most healthiest oil for a consumer? So somebody who's watching you speak will say, I should buy this because Mr. Chowdhry suggested this.
See, we believe that for Indian consumers, an oil, a soft oil like a sunflower oil or a soybean oil, they are the healthiest cooking mediums. Reason being that we consume, see, your body needs all types of fats. There are three types of fats essentially: saturated fats, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. So we consume a lot of saturated fat when we eat outside food or we eat cooked products like biscuits or whatever. So at home, if you're consuming, it is better to use oil which is low in saturated fat, which is high in non-saturated fats. So sunflower offers almost 99% that kind of a proposition. So that is why we say that to consume oil at home, in South India particularly, because South Indians don't like soybean oil. So sunflower oil is the best oil in terms of consumption for the South Indian population. Because if you're eating outside, you're eating ghee, you're eating biscuits, you are eating samosas, you are eating hotel food, is all saturated fat. So to balance it out at home, you better eat sunflower oil.
Coming from a city like Hyderabad, which is not exactly a Mumbai or a Delhi or even a Bengaluru to start selling branded products, to develop a brand from nothing to where it is today, how did you take freedom as a brand and build it this way, sir?
You see, brand building, all the elements have to work right. All the elements.
Sure, sir.
So, A, you got to make sure that your product is the best product in terms of quality and what it offers. Number two, you have to have the right marketing direction.
Yes, sir.
I mean, in terms of you got to have a distributor support. I've been operating in this geography in the edible oil field for the last 35 years. We started this company only 15 years back. So I had a relationship with the trade for 35 years. So for me to get the trade support was very, very relatively easy, I would say. Right? Of course, the trade support to continue, you got to make sure that you support the trade as well. They must have an interest in you. Make sure that their ROIs are right, they earn the right amount of money from you. That's now. Then we as a corporate, it's a new company, Gemini, formed 15 years ago, but it is like an old wine in a new bottle. My team is the same, which we've been together for more than 30 years. So we as a chemistry, as a team, we've been working together. So we all understand each other, we know each other. Then the effort in terms of marketing, we decided very clearly 15 years ago when we launched Freedom, today is the time to build a brand, not tomorrow. Because the only entry barrier tomorrow will be a brand. It was a growing segment, branded brands were growing at about 10, 15, 20% per annum. Today we are 80% branded, 20% unbranded. When Freedom started, it was 30% branded, 70% unbranded. So it is easier to build a brand when you have a huge growth happening in the branded segment. So that was the time. So I would say various factors, we played everything right. We did all our jobs perfectly. At the same time, we had the tailwinds in terms of the market dynamics. The market was also growing. So I don't want to take the entire credit myself.
But you had mentioned in the business schools and as to how the brand was built, I think that's a great compliment there. Your factories are located strategically at the coastal areas, Kakinada, Krishnapatnam and all that. Any reason why those were at the coastal areas?
Because we are import dependent.
That's it. I was guessing that.
So we have infrastructure in terms of pipeline connected right from the jetty to our factories. So logistics are much simpler. And in geometry, it is said two sides of a triangle are always greater than the third. So directly moving from the factory to a customer versus moving the crude oil first to Hyderabad, then refine, and then again move to another customer. It's two sides of a triangle. So.
And also your market area that you encompass, south and east?
No. So it is like this. We sell within a 500 kilometer
range. I was reading
range,
yes.
Almost 85%.
So your transportation cost.
See, the coastline of India is huge. On the east coast and west coast, if you see, and imports are large. So I cannot compete with somebody on the west coast of India in the western geography. I cannot. Taking it all the way from here to west coast, I cannot.
Transportation cost will be huge.
Transportation cost. So we've been very content in terms of our market size to build only in these 5 or 6 states which are closer to my factories, where the consumption is large. Anyway, each state is like a country by itself.
Yeah, true. Now, when you talk of your plans, and 2 of them being on the east coast for very obvious reason, what happens to locally sourced sunflower? I mean, pardon me for my ignorance, but what happens if it's a product that comes from a farmer? And how does your industry process that part of it?
Sunflower is hardly any production of sunflower.
In India.
So there's no domestic. So whatever little sunflower is produced, the Hyderabad refineries take it. And the price, you see, the market maker in terms of price in India is the imported oil. It sets the price. Domestic oils follow the imported oils.
Okay.
So if imported oils go up, domestic prices will go up. and vice versa. So the domestic sunflower oil, whatever little, is all consumed by the local, the hinterland refineries.
So if you look at a price comparison, an apple to apple comparison, you have the domestic segment, say, sourced and made inland, and an imported product that comes through your coastal units, through the factories. Which one is more cost effective? I wouldn't call it cheaper, I would use the word cost effective.
Like I mentioned to you, the price of raw material will be almost similar, give or take a little bit for quality adjustment. I mean, if domestic quality is a little poor, it'll come at a cheaper price. The key lies in economies of scale.
Okay.
In terms of manufacturing. That is where our strength is.
And which countries are we dependent on in terms of importing sunflower?
Well, sunflower, the largest exporting region is Russia and Ukraine, and then Argentina.
Has this war impacted you?
It did impact us initially when the war happened in 2022, February. For about 6 months or so, sunflower oil went through the roof. Supply was a constraint. But thereafter, things have normalized, both in Russia and Ukraine, to an extent that they're producing almost the same quantity as before, and no longer a problem in sourcing.
Your expansion plans in Hyderabad, that is in the Telangana region, can you just take us through that, sir?
Yes, so we have reached capacity utilization in Krishnapatnam and Kakinada, and Telangana is one of our important markets. And bordering Telangana, we are also looking at markets like Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. So we are, and also even Maharashtra for that matter. So we said that our next expansion should be in the hinterland, which is in Telangana. We were also optimistic on the domestic oil availability. So we said, okay, we must look at that as well. So this project, what we envisaged, was based on sunflower and rice bran, these two major oils, okay, which we thought that even if we get about 30-40% sunflower domestic and 70% import, it will still make sense to set up a refinery here. And anyway, rice bran is only a domestic oil. So the position is that we have acquired the land, which is in a place called Siddhapur on the Bangalore highway. And now we are waiting for the infrastructure to come up there in terms of road.
Okay.
So I believe the work is going on full swing. So over the next few months, once we see the road there, our project takes from land to fully commercial refinery max 12 months.
Oh, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. So it is not like too much of a rocket science. It takes, so they all bought out technology, and we have experts in setting up projects. I personally would have set up no less than 14-15 refineries in the last 30 years. So we know it all in terms of the way it is done. So I think over the next few months, we will surely be in a position to start the project.
In terms of running a company, in terms of building a brand, you have done amazing amount of work. But every company also does something very quietly, which is the corporate social responsibility. Most of the companies don't even talk about it. Something like with you and Freedom also. What are the activities that the company does in serving the rural area especially? Can you just enumerate that, sir?
Yeah, so we are very passionate about CSR, and we want to give it back to the society for sure. And we owe it to the society, I would say rather. And we are not bound by only what is statutorily required to be spent.
2% or 3%.
It doesn't matter. We are willing to go beyond. So we do a lot of work on social security, healthcare, education. Okay. These are the three, and now of course environment of late, where we have been adopting lakes and parks. So we have done a lot of work on healthcare, a lot of work on education. So we have been building schools, but we do it not directly, we do it through somebody who's into it. For instance, Satya Sai Trust, they have come with few schools, Through Satya Sai Trust, we'll be doing a lot of medical camps, and so we donations to L.V. Prasad Eye Institute. We're giving donations to Apollo hospitals for their ear dysfunction, children who are born deaf and dumb.
Sahi project.
Yeah, so Sahi project. So there we are doing. Then we do for midday meal programs through Akshay Patra. And these are the kind of things that we do mainly. And even social security we have done with the Telangana government, setting up those Bharosa centers.
Now that you had such a long innings, starting with, you have traveled a long way, and setting up 15 refineries is no joke. So you've seen it, done it, been there all. What is the future plans of yours, sir?
See, I did not plan for this.
Okay.
So what happened to me or where we are today, it was not planned. It happened. You take it stage by stage. So when I set up a trading company, I did not know that I'll get into manufacturing. And when I got into manufacturing, I didn't know that I'll get into brands. So it all happened. Situations demand and things happen. So at the moment, my son is here already. Okay. Anyway, I am a minority shareholder in the company. The majority shareholder sitting in Singapore. This is the Golden Agri Resources. They are a Singapore listed company. And we have a private equity investor also. So at the moment, they are keen that I continue to run till I am. Of course, the succession plan is in place. My son Akshay is ready. He also been in Associate Gemini since inception.
Okay.
So he's fully versed with all the operations. And like I mentioned, it's a professionally run company. So I mean, today, even if I'm not here, the company will run the way it is run.
Process dependent.
It has been process driven. So yeah, maybe another few years. Definitely, I would like to continue because I think working till the age of 75 is fine.
Age is just a number.
So another 3-4 years, I can continue.
Yes, sir. Mr. Pradeep Chowdhry, wonderful talking to you. I wish, it's like speaking to in a management college that you learn a business of, cooking oil, which is drastically different from other products. And wonderful speaking to you and learning a lot from you, sir. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Pradeep Chowdhry, Managing Director of Freedom. That is a better brand that is known as. Of course, as an industrialist, as an entrepreneur, he's seen it all. From ITC to Britannia and to this present company of his, Freedom. There's a lot that he has done. But there is something beyond it. Something that you learn from business, because running Gemini was a test case for him, because as he said, he didn't plan it. It just happened. But then it happened in a wonderful way. And there are a lot of lessons for entrepreneurs to learn from this in terms of breaking out on your own at the right time, and then, of course, making it work. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.